Hi, it's Alaska Granny. I was looking through my prepper pantry and trying to think about what are the foods that I want to have on hand, what are the different categories, and today I wanted to share with you my favorite powdered foods that I have in my prepper pantry. You may have some of these too, and maybe there'll be some items that you never thought about before, and perhaps you want to add them into your prepper pantry. Now I'm just going to go through them, not in any particular order, just the order that I pulled them out when I was thinking about them. Maybe you have powdered eggs. I like to buy them from August Farms. They're already sealed in a number 10 can and they can last nearly forever. I also like to buy the whole egg rather than the scrambled egg because then I can use these for baking, for cooking, for recipes when you want to add a whole egg. But if you just have scrambled egg, then it's not as useful if you want to add it into a recipe. You don't necessarily want your cakes to taste like scrambled eggs. So having the whole egg, for me, works the best. Maybe you don't have eggs, or you don't even eat eggs, but you can look at the Bob's Red Mill Egg Replacer. You can use this not for eggs, but you can use it in place of eggs when you're baking and making recipes. You measure it out and you add it right into your recipe. You stir in the egg replacer powder and then you can go ahead and make your recipe. The Bob's Red Mill Egg Replacer is great because just this little bag is equivalent to 34 eggs. Next I have cheese powder. I bought this also from August Farms. I've been fortunate because in Alaska you can go into Walmart and they have these on the shelf. So it's easy to pick them up. You can also order them online from Walmart or even from Amazon. I've enjoyed all of the products and I have found them to be top quality and reasonably priced. So they're a product that I continue to pick up and add a little at a time when I find them. This one is a cheese blend powder and specifically I plan to use it for making things like macaroni and cheese. There's recipes on the back of the cheese blend for you to make a cheese dip or even to make cheesy crackers. So this can be very handy, not just for macaroni and cheese. You can use it for other kinds of items when you would want to use cheese. Most of us are familiar with the powdered Parmesan cheese, and this is nice because it's shelf stable and you can store it right in your pantry. Once you open it though, you need to refrigerate it. Right now I have room in my refrigerator, so I've gone ahead and stored a few extras in there on the shelf because I know that food needs to be stored cool, dark, and dry, so that's a great place to store some of the extra foods that you have. Sometimes we want to do whatever we can to try to enhance and lengthen the shelf life of the foods that we have in our pantry. Butter powder. This stuff is very nice. It's very easy to stir it up. It goes right together very nicely, and it's actually made with real butter, so guess what? It tastes like butter. You can use it as a spread. You can sprinkle it into recipes. I like adding the butter powder when I make bread in my bread machine. I can stir it in with the dry ingredients, and then it doesn't matter if I don't have fresh butter or if I can't afford the fresh butter. Sometimes it's just becoming so expensive, but it's easy to have a can of the powdered butter right in the prepper pantry. Powdered milk is another great food to have in your pantry. If you've watched my videos at all before, that you know that I'm a big fan of the Nido Fortificata. It's made with actual whole milk and it tastes like milk. It's also easy to stir right into your recipes and it is very delicious tasting milk. The longest lasting milk is the non-fat dry milk, but that's not something that I choose to store. But as always, choose the foods that you enjoy eating, that you're willing to use. Don't store foods that you don't intend to eat just because it's on somebody else's list. If it's not useful to you, then you don't have to spend your money on it or have it take up space in your prepper pantry. So stick with the foods that you enjoy. Other drink powders to think about are ones that you just stir into water. For example, Tang, or you can buy the little packets of drink flavors that can stir into water. One reason I like to store the Tang is because it's a great source of vitamin C. And your body needs vitamin C. It can't store it, so you need a serving of vitamin C every day for you to help maintain the best optimum health. You can look at the little packages of little drink mixes too, if that's something that you like, but make sure that you have something. If, say, you do have running water, but it tastes nasty, then you can have a way to make it more palatable, more enjoyable. And sometimes we get tired of drinking just plain water, and then you can add a little bit of flavor into your water, and then you can make up for not choosing to drink things like soda pop. If you're a coffee drinker, the longest lasting coffee is the instant, the powdered coffee. Coffee beans just don't last, but powdered coffee does. So it might be something to include in your prepper pantry if you're a fan of coffee. And even if you're not, can you imagine the people you know who do enjoy coffee, if you could give them a little spoonful of this and some water every now and then? Boy, you might be able to get people to do just about anything for you, because when people have vices, things like coffee, they're unbearable if they don't get to have what they want. The next powder is peanut butter powder. I've also bought it in smaller containers by PBJ, and that works very nice too. But the one by Augustin Farms, it's just a bigger, longer lasting option, and so I've added it to my prepper pantry as well. If you enjoy peanut butter, you know that it's full of oils and it does go rancid. And I know people have said, oh, I've opened them up long past and it was still fine. And luckily that occurs most of the time. But I've opened up regular jars of peanut butter that were absolutely smelled horrible, because even though it looked just fine, the oils in it had become rancid and it was no longer fit to eat. We always want to have options of the foods that we enjoy. So yes, store some jars of peanut butter, and you need to rotate them much more frequently than you do the peanut butter powder. And I just don't like to leave them very long past the date anymore after finding out that mine had been wasted. Think about the other types of powdered foods that you use. Pancake mixes, biscuit mixes, waffle mixes. You can buy them in the store. You can even seal these up into Mylar bags and put them away for a few years, or you can go ahead and buy them in the same format from Augustin Farms so that they can last a long, long time. But if it's a food like this that you use all the time, you can probably buy a big bag of it and continue to rotate it and then replace it. Think about the powders that you use that come in little packets. Gravy mixes, spaghetti sauce mixes, salad dressing mixes, all those little toppings, taco seasoning, all those kind. They are great to have in your prepper pantry because you can add variety into your meals with just a small package of some powder. I like to buy multiples of the powdered foods like this. I store them together in a 5-gallon bucket. I put the list of contents and the date on the bucket, and then when that date rolls around, then I'll open the bucket and I will replace these into my pantry, and then I will replace those packets with fresh ones going into my food storage. You can store these a few years longer, especially if you store them the best as possible in an airtight container in a cool, dark, dry place. Think about the favorite spices you have. My favorites include garlic powder, onion powder, cinnamon powder, chili powder. Look at all the different spices and seasonings that you use, and make sure that you have a good supply. I like to buy them in smaller containers because then I know when I'm opening up they're fresh. I don't have some giant thing that maybe has been open for 10 years and then I find out, like I did recently with some Italian seasoning, that there was something strange in my container. And yes, I did throw that away. Perhaps you like the flavors of meats and the variety that you can add with some bouillon powder. You can buy it also in cubes, and you can buy it in powder. You can shake it right into your meals. I like to keep a supply of chicken bouillon, beef bouillon, and then I even was able to find some vegetable bouillon. So even if you're not a meat eater, you can have a nice array of flavors with just a little scoop of powder that you can change up your meals. Do you ever do any baking? Make sure that you have your baking supplies, including baking powder. There's all different kinds, from flour, sugar, baking soda, all the different kinds of things that we would use in our baking. And make sure you have those supplies if you plan on doing any baking in the future. The nice thing about baking powder is there's a recipe right on the container that tells you how to make simple biscuits. And guess what? If you have some baking powder and some gravy mix, you can make some biscuits and gravy right out of the powders in your prepper pantry food stockpile. Are you a fan of chocolate? Well, perhaps you want to know, how can I make chocolate last the longest? And it is just about nearly impossible. But you can have some cocoa powder, and it can last a long time in your prepper pantry. It can be versatile because then you can use it for baking, mixing up your own hot chocolate mixes. There are all different ways that you might want to use cocoa powder. If you want chocolate in your food storage, you can have it, but you need to rotate it. It's not going to last very long, but cocoa powder will. Are you wondering how to have sweet treats that can really last in your prepper pantry? Pick up some Jell-O type gelatin packets. It's powder that, guess what, can last nearly forever. So check it out, find some different flavors. Maybe Jell-O is something that you used to make and then you forgot about it. So think about it and stock up, because it isn't very expensive and it's a nice way to add variety and some sweet treats into your prepper pantry food stockpile. How about some powdered potatoes? Mashed potatoes are my favorite, easiest way to make them, and I do like the Idahoan. But I try to buy just the ones that are just potatoes, because if they have other flavors and things in them, you risk that they can't last as long. The more ingredients in your food, the shorter the time it's going to last, because whenever you add something like oil or butter or cheese, that's the ingredient that's going to expire first, and so then the potatoes that might have lasted 30 years aren't going to, because of the addition of other ingredients. And I'm not sure if this one would be legitimately a powder, but how about some grits? They're easy to make. You can put them right into the crock pot and cook them that way. You can make cheese grits, you can make regular grits. There's all different ways to make them. They're simple, and it's certainly a change of pace from some of the other foods that many of us eat on a regular basis. I made a video before on how to make them in your crock pot, and I'll put a link to that if you're interested. Something else that people like to do when they dehydrate their vegetables is to grind them up into powders, and then you have powdered vegetables. That's not something that I necessarily do, because when I dehydrate my vegetables, I like to toss in the little bites into my soups and stews. I don't necessarily want just powder, because I'm not trying to hide it. I want to have the flavor of each ingredient. But if you are dehydrating vegetables and maybe say your kids don't want to eat them, you can powder them up and sprinkle them into things, and then you're getting the servings of vegetables that maybe you want, and you enjoy adding those extra flavors. There are all different ways to make your food storage work for you. Figure out what you like to eat. What are the longest lasting foods? How can you rotate your food? There's a lot to think about and a lot to learn. But if we choose to go one little step at a time, add a new ingredient, learn to cook something new, add something new into our pantry that we know can last longer, we can be more successful going forward, because we'll have the things we need. So if there's a powdered food that you enjoy and you have in your prepper pantry, leave it in the comments below so it can give us ideas of other foods we may want to add into our stockpile. If you enjoyed my video, I hope you'll share it with someone else you think might like it. Please subscribe to the Alaska Granny channel.